Okay, today should be Eli Nishmas. Yisrael Chaim ben Eliezer. He's not even buried yet. Now he's just died, will rise tomorrow. Okay, so the Mishnah. So we're gonna start from Laman Aleph, Laman Aleph, the Mishnah, the new parak. Mi shekina le'ishtay v'nistra. Somebody who is makana his wife, which means he warns her in front of two people. In front of two people, he warns her, "Don't hang out with this guy," and she hides with him. She hangs out with him in a certain amount of time, they tell me whatever it is, a couple of minutes. Even if he only knows about the stira, right? The kina is the warning, the stira is the hiding. Even if he finds out just from like a bird chirping, it's not literal, right? Because he doesn't speak bird, but it's just like you don't really need a whole edus, like a whole official zog. As long as he hears like some hack that she was hiding with this guy, yaitzi v'eating ksuba. Now he has to give her the ksuba because you need to take her out of ksuba. You need real edus to take money out of her pocket, you need avis. But to put her in a matziv that she can't, that she asks her husband, because there's because he already made a ruckus, and she didn't listen. We have a reason. We don't let her drink. Again, I said this a few times. We're going to chazor because it's very important. The whole reason why we make her drink is not to punish her. Now, if she drinks and she's tamei, she gets punished. But that's not the tachlis of the drinking. The tachlis of the drinking is to create shalom bias. We want her to get back to her husband. The second that we're out of a matzav of suffix, the second that we don't have a suffix if she's tamei or not, which means is any tzad to say, like this, we're going to see that somebody says a shivcha, a person that we wouldn't believe for kashrus, we wouldn't believe for anything. But someone says this lady was hanging out with that guy after a kina, then we don't let her drink anymore. Because the whole point is not to punish her. The point is
What do you mean?
just
Don't let her drink.
we don't let her drink the waters, and we make her get divorced. But this idea of drinking is only to be mafter her to her husband. So that only works when we're not sure what's going on. The second we have a cheshbon of why we should know what's going on, which means it's not a suffix, we're not like in the dark anymore. Even though we don't have a din edus, we can't take money out of her pocket, we can't throw off a building and stone her, we can't do anything. But we're gonna take away this ability for her to drink. Because the drinking is only in a place of suffix, and this no longer qualifies as a suffix. It's very important. The waters are not to punish her. The waters are to be mavara suffix. If she's metame, which means if she was with that guy, then she gets punished. But that's not the tachlis. The tachlis is to be mavara suffix and to bring shalom bayis. That's what Rabbi Lezer says, that any sort of lashon of any chirping, any hack that she was with this guy, she doesn't drink. Now it's machlekes in the first mishnah of Sotah. And Rashi explains that they go to Tamei. Because Rabbi Elazar over there holds, I don't need to aid them to know that she had stira. Now Yeshua says over there in the Mishnah, he says I need to aid them that she had stira. So what does she say? What does Rabbi Yeshua say over here? Until it becomes mamish hak, the whole neighborhood's talking about it. Not that you heard one guy made a comment in shul that, oh, I saw your wife again. Everyone knows that these guys were together. The whole neighborhood's talking about it, and doesn't stop.
When does she drink?
She drinks in a massive of suffix. So if you
don't know that she was
no, you have to know that she was sliced. But we're talking about we're talking about over here that we don't. We're talking about here that there was a stira. Rashi says here, afilu shama me'oif hapereach shenistera yoytzi v'eating suba. But let's the Amar stira loy boy edus. We don't need edus. Rashi's saying, right? According to Rabbi Lezer in the first Mishnah. Afilu evera afilu shivcha neman. This is the first Mishnah. I knew. Nami ka'ayha perech. Stop chirping. Eved is not neman for edus, right? The iska shton tum the kol fine. Hilchach nesra love the im ein roitze v'hashkaisa. Rashi saying this. I forgot to say. Rashi saying it's only if he doesn't want to be mashker. If he at this point, if he doesn't want to be mashker, then she goes there. But of course, he's still allowed. Okay, so I said it wrong. I'm sorry. He's at this point we're still allowed to. He's still allowed to make her drink. But Rashi saying if he doesn't want her to drink, then she's outside.
It's his choice.
It's always his choice. All right? It's always his choice. He at any point, basically, he can pull out and say, it's just too much. Because we learned earlier, the process is like they make her crazy, and it could be just like he can't handle it. You know, at the end of the day, it's someone he cares about, and like he just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. So that again, so this is talking about this. There's no edus that there was nistara, right? This is talking about to get to nistara. After nistara is a different conversation. The question is, was there a stira? According to Rabbi Lezer, even if I heard any hack, it's already considered there was a stira, and therefore she has to drink in order to become mutter, and if not, she goes out with a ksuba because the husband decided not to make her drink. But Rabbi Shua says, everyone has to know that it's not Eidus Mamish, but it has to be common knowledge that she was Saiser. And then if he doesn't want to make her drink, then she goes out with a ksuba. If one aid said I saw her be mitama in the stira, however we know about the stira, everyone tasam, right? So if Lezer the stira is going to be a prayer, right? But if one aid says I know that she was mizana, then she doesn't drink. That's not by her. That's not by him. And then we said, if we hear because there was for sure a stira, then she's also possible from ksuba. In the first case,
if he doesn't want her to drink, she doesn't even get a ksuba.
No, if he pulls the plug, then she gets a ksuba. This is talking about that she's not allowed to drink because there was aid that she was tamei. So aid that she's tamei, whenever the aid is tamei or she pulls out she doesn't want to drink, then she doesn't get a ksuba. But if he says, I don't want to do it, or if he's boiling her on the way, which is also, and it doesn't have to be on the way. If he's with her anytime after the stira, then she doesn't drink and she gets a ksuba because it's his fault. Right? So just to recap quickly, the first case is talking about when we're not sure that there's a stira. We don't have aid that there's a stira. We heard either a chirping or a major hack that is according to very different shitas. And then the second case of the Mishnah is if there's an aid that in this stira that she was tamei, then she doesn't drink and she doesn't get a ksuba. And this is going. It says this is also a massive chiddush. There's 5 women that are generally not believed by any Eidas Isha, even when an Eid Echad is Naman. Even when an Isha is Naman, right? So for example, the Gittin, Eid Echad is Naman to say right? That the get was signed and written before me, Lishma. These 5 women are not believed. Who are they? Chamaisa, her mother-in-law, Ubas Chamaisa, and her sister-in-law, Vitzarasa, and her co-wife, Uviyavimta, and her potential co-wife, because a woman's husband's brother's wife, right? If that guy dies without kids, we'll end up marrying her, becoming her, right? That's the case of Yavama. If there's two brothers, one of them dies without kids. If they're both married, whatever, if one of them is married, the dead brother's wife has to either get chalitza or yibum to the other brother, whether he's married or not, doesn't matter. But as long as the dead brother doesn't have any kids, so this wife, even though she's alive, even though her husband's alive now, she knows potentially that she can end up being co-wives and competitors with this other woman. Ubas Bala and a stepdaughter, which is always fun. They are Neman, but over here, they have a restriction that they cannot pass from Ksuba because we think that they might be biased. But once they say something, we're not going to let her drink. So now we're going to have like this. So that's this is the Mishnah discussing the cases, the Mishnah of who's Naman and when they drink. Now let's make a kavachayim. Eidus Rishayna. Eidus Rishayna is stira. Eidus Achrayna is tuma. So Eidus Rishayna. She'ein Asar to Israelim, telling us that she had a stira. It's not making her asa forever. She has to go to Mizmah and she could drink and then she comes home or she dies. But it's not a forever asa. We said that it has to be. We need 2 eidim. This is in Rabbi Shua because according to Rabbi we don't need 2 eidim. He said, but in Rabbi Shua, Eidas Achrayna shet Aisarta Israelim. Eidas afterwards, in other words, it's a tuma that she actually had an actual relation with the guy. Einadin that Shaisarta Israelim. Einadin shalit this guy in Pachas Mishayim. Of course, you should need 2. You're doing something much more catastrophic. You're destroying this couple forever. There's like Eidas that tuma. It's done. They're done. So Talmud Leimer, no, I would say this Kavachaimer, the Talmud Leimer, the Ein Eid, but there's a special, the Pasuk says by this case of Stira that there's no aid. Call Eid Sheyeshba, that there's any Eidus. In other words, if the Ein Eid, but if there's no Eidus, then she drinks. But any Eidus that she was Tamei, she doesn't drink. It's a special because with the Kavachaimer, I would say not like that. But now, let's do it the other way. I have a Pasuk that tells me that there's one Eidus Naman by Tamei, by Tuma. Tuma, I don't mean a sharetz, right? I mean like that there was an actual bia, right? They had relations. So let's do kavachayim the other way. Kavachayim eidus rishayna me'ata. Now that we established that eidus of tuma could be with only one, let's go backwards. Uma eidus hachrayna. Madach if eidus of tuma. that makes them asa forever. You could accomplish this Israelim with one aid. Now go right. Eidas harishayna she'ena asar to Israelim. The eidas that she had stira is not asar Israelim, like we said, just until she drinks. And in addition, this guy she also only need one aid. It's right.
Or even less. Right.
Well, you can't. There's no less than one. Right, but I'm saying not a full, because it says even eight echad over here whenever there's eight echad, it usually means even psulim, because that means I don't need a real din edus. We're going to see later. So we say that kimatzu ba'avas davar. The pasuk says when someone gets divorces his wife, it's because he found something avas davar, something not nice in this Indian, right? So we say this is talking about regular edus of money. Malalon al pishnayim, avkan al pishnayim. When it says al pishnayim edim yakum davar, and then it says matzav ba'avas davar, so gzeir shav davar davar doesn't really make sense. It's not like something that's logical, but this is how gzeir shav has worked. From Moshe Rabbeinu, and they don't work logically necessarily. Eight amar nitmas kate. So that's why we have eight stira needs two, and eight tuma needs one, and they each have a pasuk. Otherwise, I'd learn that from the other one the other way. Eight aimer nitmas eight aimer loy nitmas. If one eight says she was I saw relations. The other one says she didn't. Each aimer is nitmas. Each aimer is loy nitmas. Or if a woman says yes and a woman says no, haisa shaisa, she would drink. Again, as long as we're gonna leave off the conversation in a place of suffix, that's when we're gonna drink. That's the goal. We have to know at the end of all edus, do we have a suffix or not? If yes, she drinks. If not, no. That's the site to work with. If one says she was tamei and the other says and two says she wasn't, she would drink, right? Because she. So Rashi explains the case. It's you have to find it in Rashi, but basically they didn't say that the whole time she didn't drink. The whole time she wasn't tamei. The Eid Echad says I came into the room. I saw them walk into I saw them in the room at 3:00. Now it could be they were there from 1:00. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I saw from 1:00, from 3:00 when I got there. Till 4:00, they weren't tamei. There was a relation. That's what one aid says, right? The two aidim say we were there the same time frame as you. I don't know what happened from 1 to 3, but from 3 to 4 there was nothing there. Now, if they're saying the whole time that they walked in and there was no beer, then why shouldn't you drink? Right? She would drink. If she's saying the whole time, right? If they're saying the whole time she wasn't together, then
there's no suffix.
There's no suffix. Why should she drink? She's not tamei. There's no way that she did anything. I saw the whole time. It must be the saying that I came after she went in. But I saw the whole time that this one guy, me and my friend, me and the Eidim, right? You two guys, you said the whole time that I was there. You saw me and you saw them, and there was nothing going on. So you're just being machish ma'edus, but you're not saying edus on them necessarily, because they were there outside the window of our testimony. Right? If two edim say that she was tamei and one says she wasn't tamei, she would not drink. Again, we're going to see exactly how and why. I wasn't going to go through them. Fine. Hi, Talmud. The reason why we are mamayit that stira needs two edim is not from kimatz ba'avas davar. It says in the first blot of Sotah that we learn out from ba. It says ba that ain't aid ba by a tuma. There's no one aid works, but ba b'levikina ba b'stira dafka by tuma and not by kina, not by stira, which we're medayik from this. It's not a gzer shav from davar. That's what we should have said, because that's what we learned before. We're gonna amend the Mishnah job. That's how we learn out. Not bikina, that's how we know that kina and stira are not. You can't work with only one aid, even though we can make a kavachayma, but we have ba to be mimayit. But tuma ba'alma b'loy kina b'loy stira the loy mehem and eidachem. How do I know? Maybe I should learn from this sugya of this pasuk of Tuma that any time that I see a woman seclude herself with a man, and I see that a man and woman have relations outside their marriage, one aid is b'nema. So nemer kan davar v'nemer halan davar. So for a regular case of ishus, regular case of erev davar of an affair of znus is you need davar davar. That's where you have exer shava. But for a woman, for kina and stira, have rabba. Malav lameshedim makam meshedim. That's exer shava we brought down the Mishnah. You have to add a few words into the Mishnah. Now I don't understand why you can't be mamay in this case also from baba. The Mishnah I'm talking about, I don't fully understand what they're answering, but they address it because I think that the whole case of Tumah is talking about Gitzer. You can also be Medayik Ba and not someone who didn't have Kina and Stira. So you make the same deal. Now it's Ba, we're talking about only her. Who's her? A woman after Stira, after Kina, who has one aid. But a woman who doesn't have any of these is not included in this. They talk about it. Just not ha'ara. But you could come out with another case, another way of learning. Eidam and Nitmas. So we're gonna try to be medayik. We're trying to figure out what cases who's saying Eid is there. Taima, the Kamachashle. The reason why he's not believed is because someone else came at him, right? Eidam and Nitmas, and then it says Eidam and Loy Nitmas. So Taima the Kamachashle. Haloi Machashle Eidach and Mehaman. Minan. How do we know that Eidach is Naman by?
If no one else would have come.
How do we know that Eidach is Naman by Tuma? The Tana Rabbana, the eight Einba. The pasuk says the eight Einba by a case of Tuma after Stira, and it's talking about B'Shnayim because the Torah is saying that there's no two Eidim. At B'Shnayim, you tell me that it's two, that there's missing two, and in other words, that there is one. Maybe there's even one, because in other words, the Lashon Eid is one. Eid is Lashon Yachid. So who says to tell me that Eid is Lashon two? Talmud Leimer. We have another pasuk that says Lo Yakum Eid Echad Be'ish. One aid should not establish anything by a person. So b'mashma shenemar Lo Yakum Eid ani yedei shehu Echad. Why does it have to say Eid Echad? It says Lo Yakum Eid Echad Be'ish. It just say Lo Yakum Eid Be'ish. I know that Eid is one. Matam Leimer Echad. What's the point of saying Echad? Zebana Av. It's come to teach me. Kol Makom shenemar Eid Harei Kan Shnayim Ad Sheyifat Kasav Echad. With standard default, when the Torah says eight, it means two people. Because otherwise this word echad is extra. Don't say eight echad, just say eight, and I know echad. So the fact that it says it has to reiterate echad, it means that the word eight means two. So that means go back to the eight einba of our pasuk over here, right, by stira. The eight einba was eight, two, which means who's here? One. Yeah. Now the pasuk also comes out to say, how do I know that we're saying a case of that she's asa? Because of the fact that it's Torah says especially she wasn't forced, right? It means the Torah is setting up a scenario for Issa. To say she wasn't forced, she's mutter. And if she was forced, the point of saying she wasn't forced was to say that only when she wasn't forced, she's Asa. Even though, right? No. The pasuk ends off, V'hila Espasa, Asura. Isha, her husband, and she wasn't forced. What's the one to tell me she wasn't forced? It means I'm setting her up for chiyuv. If I'm telling you, being forced, in any sugya and shas in halacha is a reason to pata somebody. If I force you to turn a light on Shabbos, right? So if I'm forcing, the Torah is saying, and she wasn't forced, it means that we're setting her up for a patur, for a hischayvus. Because the einus would pater. So I'm saying, but hilayin espasa. That's how I know the pasuk is talking about a case of isser. Because why would I mention she's not forced if I'm talking about a patur? In other words, I can't say that eight einba, there's only one aid and she's pater. Because I said that hilayin espasa. She wasn't forced. Why am I telling you she wasn't forced? Only to be mechayiv. That's why I know the pasuk is talking about chiyuv.
Why can't you learn that from Asura?
Where does it say Asura?
With hilayin espasa Asura. Well, that's not part of it.
No, the Asura. No, hilayin espasa comes to tell me Asura. That means my whole pasuk is set up as the Isser. Because otherwise the Hilan Espasa is not relevant. The Kiva, the Midiraisa, fine. So that's how we know. That was a simple question of how do we know that the Eid Echad is Neman stand by Tuma after Stira. The Kiva, the Midiraisa, Eid Echad Mehemen. Now that I have one Eid is Neman Midiraisa by this woman, right? And after Stira. Now, how could you tell me that someone else that comes against her, that comes against Eid? Now, this aid, the second aid, doesn't have this koyach of Eid Einba. Eid Einba is only coming to tell me that if you know something, if you could be mechayiv her, I want to hear about it. Right. It doesn't open up the door for everyone to come in and say their piece.
That's the question.
Who's saying? The second aid? Yeah. He's saying exactly that what he said is not true. He's not saying.
Saying he wasn't there.
He's not saying. He's saying that I was there and I didn't see. And there was no bia. That's what he's saying, right? But so right, you have
Who
the
said that you could do that? You could potter even exactly like we just said. Hilan is supposed to telling you like a surah.
Right, but our Mishnah said that our Mishnah said 8 armor nitmas, the 8 armor loy nitmas. Isha, right? So therefore, what? She would drink. So the first question is, how do I know that she's saying she wouldn't drink if there's only 1 8 and nobody went against him? That was the first question. We dealt with that, right? Because it says it ain't but But over here now we're saying now that you have 2 aidim, so then how does this 1 aid make her drink? Now that I say that 1 aid is neman from the Torah, now the second aid that comes in and says you're wrong, you're just 1 aid. You don't have the koyach of 2. Right. Only the Tameh guy has a koyach of 2 because you have a pasuk. We don't have a pasuk for the hachafsha guy. Hachafsha guy is just a random guy. That's regular edus. That's a regular edach. He's not believed. Right. That's the
thing is that maybe even further is that Mehila and Espas is teaching you only by Isser and not the Pater. Or maybe
they're saying that's they're saying that's the Mehila and Espas knows.
I don't know.
No, it makes sense. This pasuk is talking about Isser. He's only believed to make her Asser. He's not believed to do anything else. Right. The kiva, in fact, the kiva, the Rai say eight echad mehemen idach hachi matzim lachashlei. How could one have the power to be machash to again put her in a case of shaisa, right? Because the Mishnah ends off 8 and 1 and 1 is shaisa. But how do I end up in a place of suffix? I have 2. I have 1 that's considered like 2, and then 1 clown. Why does this guy override my edus? Ula says, anytime the Torah believes every time the Torah believes 1 aid, the deraisa, not the Rabbana. We have a pasuk in the Torah that believes 1 guy. He has the force of 2. And this 1 guy who comes in, he doesn't have the koyach of 2 from the Torah. We don't have a pasuk that says, and someone who wants to go against him, he has a special namanas. Ela Amar Ula, so Ula is going to say, Tani Haisa Shaisa. And he's rewriting the Mishnah. 1 and 1, he drinks. She doesn't drink because we're not in a place of suffix anymore. I have edus that she was tamei. I'm not going to make her drink. This other guy, he doesn't have the power of 2. The Yitzchak agrees with Ula and says the same idea. Here wants to stick with the text as we have it. He's drinking. We have a problem, right? The same kasha. Then when we have 2, how does 1 come against it? Like kasha. Why? Ula said his halacha b'zeh, which means we took 1 aid in, we had intake, we sat down, we filled that application. Let me hear you edus, asking questions. Bezin says, okay, we're miskabel as edus. It's good edus. So what's this like? It's like 2 people walking to Bezin and told me something. All of a sudden, a guy comes in from the waiting room and says, whatever he said is baloney. We already have established edus. But if they both walk in at the same time yelling at the dayan, or Rashi says, is like he says his thing and then he starts talking right away. Then the guy, the first edus didn't even get solidified. It didn't even take off yet. So therefore, we're not going to give it this power of 2. So So our Mishnah is talking about b'vasachas. Ula's halacha is very good. Our Mishnah is talking about b'vasachas. Tanan, from our Mishnah, 8 aimer nitmas, ushnaim aimer loy nitmas. If 1 8 says he was tamei, she's tamei. With 2 say he wasn't tamei, she would drink, which you could be medayik, right? The dafka 2 could override 1. But hachad v'chad loy right? And it's mashma. I guess you can't say that it's b'zeh chazeh because Rashi says it's mashma that it's b'cholekim. Because you can't say the same thing. When you say that's b'zeh chazeh, that's what's it called? But l'chayra, it's mashma that would be even b'zeh chazeh. Again, so right, so it's mashma. I'm learning it to chad v'chad lo shaisa. The dafka when there's 2 that uproot to 1. Right? 8 ayman nitmas v'shayim ayman later there's chesed. So that's when there's 2 overriding the 1, then she drinks because now I'm in a place of suffix.
It's 2 against 2.
2 against 1.
But considered 2 against 2.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. Yeah. So you have to let's say this is upshots of chiyaz halacha that the Mishnah cannot be talking about. That cannot say that or this halacha stam that bezach I guess. We want to say tiyuf to that what? Which part of Chia?
But it would seem like it's proven in a sense.
That what? See, okay. Tiyuf to Chia. That I think that there's nothing between Mizah and that's probably what it's referring to. Tiyuf to Chia. Amlach Chia lo tameich ema seifa. I have to. I didn't think about it before. Which part of Ruchia is the tiftan? But Tameich Ema Sefer. Ruchia is going to push back and say like this: you want to make a deal from the Mishnah that two against one overrides one, but 1 and 1 would be shaisa.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, you're right. Again, our Mishnah says Eiram and Nitmas v'Shayim and Nitmas v'Shaisa. That's our Mishnah. So you want to bring a raya, Hachad v'Chad lo yis Shaisa. Right?
They came in after each other. They don't, right?
L'tameich ema seifa. Shnayim am nitmas ve'echad am nitmas lo yis Shaisa. Hachad v'Chad yis Shaisa, which is the opposite deal. Ella kula psuli edus. So he's saying this whole Mishnah is different than the way you're understanding it. Rabbi Nechami, it's going the way Rabbi Nechami explains it. The Tanya of Nechami Omer call makom shamina Torah eid achar halik achar roiv deis. Now it's a numbers game. Whenever I don't need edus mamish, this didn't an edus trey kameir. If I have 2 edus and I walk in and say something, and then I have 100 edus and say something else, doesn't matter. Trey kameir. Torah to believe 2, and that's it. It's not a numbers game. We don't take a vote and see how many people said this, how many people said that. But Rabbi Nechemi says once the Torah says that it's a machlekes if he's arguing Ula or not. I don't understand how not, but this is the way I understood that he's arguing on Ula. So he's saying whenever the Torah says I don't need a regular edus, then it's a numbers game. And I take 2 women with 1 man. Edus wise, like 2 women, like 2 men and one man. That's kosher edus. Veged Amri, and another way of learning this is kol hechad asa eid echad kosher meikara afilu mei nashim nami keid echad damyan. That even if there's 1 man, even if there's 1 person that's kosher from the beginning, then even 100 nashim, which is psuli, right? They're really possible for edus. They're considered like 1 eid, like 1 eid. There was originally a woman who came first, and fine. The Gemara explains weiter. And you have to explain Nechemia more. What does that mean? 2 men, 2 women with 1 man. In other words, it depends who came first. So 2 women and then 1 man came afterwards. Now it's 50-50. But Tati Psuli Edus, now why do I need 2 cases of Psuli Edus? Because it says if 2 and 1 and 1 and 2. Why do I need both? Because we want to see both. We want to see both cases because if you go back, let's try to plug it in over here. What he's saying. She would still drink. Why? Because it's 1 and 1, right? She would drink. Why? Because it's 1 and 2. And the 1 came first, so the 2 came afterwards, 50-50.
It's one man and 2 women?
I think the all psulim. He's learning the whole Mishnah. I think that's the way I understood it. That the whole thing is talking about psulim.
1 pasul is still equal 1, and then 2 psulim is equal 1 also?
Right, so I think it's 1 and 1. So we see that it goes side kula. Whoever's first, that's basically 2 and 1 and 1 and 2 is basically 1 and 1. That's the way I understood, unless I'm missing something. But and then it's palga, and because we end up in a matzav of suffix, we are able to be mashkar. Shkach for joining us. Reza Hashem. This is it's a very